सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you, all glories to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada. All glories to assembled Vaishnavi devotees. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for being here. As always, Prabhuji, we are very grateful.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much. We're going to put the verse on the screen, and then you may start speaking. There are a few devotees here, but devotees have been coming in late lately. But we're going to go ahead and start. Those who come in on time, they will be the fortunate souls. There is one of our books, I think the title is Fortunate Souls. It deals with Sankirtan, book distribution. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sahadev.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timrasa Jnana Jnana Aksha Chakshuntam Ye Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. It is only by the mercy of the spiritual master and the sadhus, that any of us can speak anything. So this is an interesting chapter. Now, some chapters in the Bhagavatam are very philosophical, like the prayers to the Vedas and all. And some devotees adore those chapters when they get into the deep prayers and the meanings and the philosophical debates. Other chapters are like a good car chase in the movies. That's what this chapter is. Less philosophy and more blood, gut, and gore. So some devotees really prefer these chapters. So that's the wonderful thing about the Bhagavatam. It has something for everybody.
Yes.
So in this chapter, somebody who wants a wild scene better than any thing Hollywood would come up with, that is this scene. Just imagine that you are Lord Brahma, and out of your nose, something pops out. And usually when something pops out of our nose, we hope it's not in front of other people because it becomes embarrassing.
Yes.
It certainly does. But in this case, what popped out grew into Lord Boar. Now, we don't think of a boar or a pig as a particularly glorious animal.
Mhm.
We don't think of it that way. When I was first in India, I learned the hard way about pigs, because you go out in the fields to do your morning things you must do with your body, and the pigs follow you because that is their breakfast. And growing up in America, I had no understanding about that at all. In fact, they usually like waiting near the oven, which is quite disconcerting. But in many cultures, Jewish and Muslim, they say because of the pig's diet, I assume that's where it comes from, you can't even the non-vegetarians can't even eat the pig. But Lord Vishnu doesn't discriminate, and he can appear in any and all species, and here he chose a boar. And there was a great battle going on between the demons and the demigods. And that battle culminated in the Mahabharata battle, in which the demons, after they got defeated, they started taking birth in earthly families. And then the devotees started taking birth, and the fight continued on earth. And that's a lot of the Mahabharata. So this battle was going on for a long time. Now we're going back in time a long time. I don't know specifically what. I'm assuming millions of years. I don't recall dates. And Hiranyaksha is appearing. Hiranyaksha, I think, literally means gold neck. His brother Hiranyakashipu means gold bed. Hiranyakashipu, he likes soft beds and a lot of gold. And Hiranyaksha was like that. Of course, these are at a higher level, Jai and Vijay doing a pastime for the Lord. But that's the bigger picture. Now we're going to focus on the particular story here. So they're having a particularly ferocious battle. And in this battle, they are using maces. Maces are like clubs with spikes at the end. And they're tossing their maces at each other. And they're both pretty good at it. Lord Boar is very good at it, and Hiranyaksha is very good at it. So they're able to deflect each other and occasionally get a strike and draw some blood. And then eventually Brahma shows up towards the end of the chapter. And there was an astrological time for victory. And Brahma says, you know, Lord Boar, that astrological time for victory is almost up. This demon is causing a lot of trouble. Would you mind doing the needful? And Lord Lord Boar does the needful and dispenses with the demon, getting Jai or Vijay, I forgot which, one birth closer to being back to becoming the gatekeepers again, which was what they wanted. So the Bhagavatam is known as nested stories, stories within a story, within a story, within a story. What a wonderful literary piece it is. When I look at the Bhagavatam as literature, it is simply amazing how you go different levels of nested stories, each one having a purpose. So this is one of these nested stories. So now we go to a particular verse here. I'm going to actually have it on my screen. It's easier to read. Daityasya Jnanavasya Maya Kriti Varaha Tanur Mahatmana Koraiva Mayam Davistora Vimardanam Didi Rikshur Agat Rishabir Vrata Savarat. O descendant of Kuru, Brahma, the most independent demigod of the universe, accompanied by his followers, came to see the terrible fight for the sake of the world between the demon Hiranyaksha and the personality of Godhead who appeared, Lord Varaha, in the form of a boar. Purport. The fight between the Lord and the personality of God and the demon is compared to a fight between bulls for the sake of a cow. Now, when bulls are in, a cow is ready to be mated, we say the cow is in heat, as animals get. And the bulls come upon them, and the bulls smell the pheromones. They go crazy, and they'll fight who gets a right to mate. We see this in human life too. So the Earth planet is also called Go or cow, as bulls fight between themselves to ascertain who will have union with the cow. There's always a constant fight between the demons and Supreme Lord, or his representative for supremacy over the earth. And we find this is true. Demons come all the time. Prabhupada gives a list of major demons who wanted to control the earth. He lists Hiranyakasipu, Hiranyaksha, Stalin, Hitler. These are some of the names Prabhupada put in the list. Hitler thought, so much do I have today, so much more will I have tomorrow. Bigger demon than Hitler was Stalin, who killed more people than Hitler. Bigger demon than Hitler was Mao, who killed more people than Hitler and Stalin combined. Why? So they can have control. And in this case, they were avowed atheists. Hitler, hard to say what his religious thoughts were, but certainly he thought, so much do I have today, so much more will I have tomorrow, until he lost. Here, the Lord is described as Yagna Yava. One should not consider the Lord to have the body of an ordinary boar. In other words, the Lord is not a pig. He can assume any form, and he possesses all such forms eternally. It is from him that all of the forms emanate. I'm going to pause here a second. There is, if we look at theories of evolution, there's something called parallel evolution. In parallel evolution, we find that in far different places, we see the same organs evolving, the same kind of forms evolving. And the scientists struggle with this. How is it that in some remote place, something evolves, in another remote place, it evolves from the same apparent form? As a Greek philosopher says Aristotle said there must be some original form. Obviously, the only thing that makes sense in evolutionary theory, there is an original form, and the original form are the forms created by Lord Brahma under the instructions given to him in his heart while on the lotus flower. So this he received instructions from, obviously, the Supreme Lord. So he created different forms. That solves the evolutionary problem. So we go back to purport. It is from him that all forms have emanated. This boar form is not to be considered the form of an ordinary hog. His body is actually full of yajna, or worshipable offerings. Yajna, sacrifices, are offered to Vishnu. Yajna means the body of Vishnu. His body is not material, therefore it should not be taken as an ordinary boar. Brahma is described in this verse as Savarat. Actually, full independence is exclusive to the Lord himself. But as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, every living entity has a minute quantity of independence. Each and every one of the living entities within this universe has this minute independence. But Brahma, being the chief of all living entities, has a greater potential of independence than any other. He is a representative of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and has been assigned to preside over universal affairs. All other demigods work for him. Therefore, he is described as Svarat. He is always accompanied by great sages and transcendentals, all of whom come to see the bullfight between the demon and the Lord. So this point of independence is very important. Question comes, we look at this purport again. It says, each and every one of the living entities has this minute independence. But Brahma, being the chief, has a greater potential of independence. So my question to you, how much independence do you have? Do you even have, and I discussed this a little in the last class in Africa, do you have free will? Are you controlled? Are you the controller? Do you have free will? It's a book just came out by Spolowski, a philosopher from, I think, Berkeley or Stanford, forget which. And it's a New York Times bestseller. And the title of the book is We Don't Have Free Will. It's not very clever philosophical arguments, but there are cases where we don't have free will. Somebody give me an example where we lost our free will. Anybody give me an example where we lost our free will?
Well, Hare Krishna. I know in democracy, there is this notion that everyone has freedom of speech. But I remember Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada of Uganda used to say that, yes, Uganda is a democratic nation. Everyone has freedom of speech, but your freedom ends at the end of your speech. So
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it did.
So I tend to believe that
in that case, I would give a very long speech.
I tend to believe that, yes, we have the freedom to do whatever we want to do, but we are also limited or restricted as to what we can do, and therefore we get punished if we do not do what the Supreme Authority wants us to do. So in the absolute sense, we do not have a free will. This is my belief.
Okay. How much free will we have is a good question. Some of this is proportional to our modes of nature. I'll give an example. A drunk has virtually no free will. He can't make any good decisions. He'll fall on the ground, he'll bleed, doesn't know he's bleeding, he'll do inappropriate things. You're hearing these stories all the time, especially on low-cost airlines, of drunk passengers getting on the airline and doing horrible things. Saying, I was on an airplane once. I had an upgrade. I was in the front row. And I was flying into Los Angeles. We started descending. And somebody runs up and starts kicking in the cockpit door. And this is before the doors were reinforced in 9/11. And the flight attendant says, "Stop that." And he takes, right in the front was a galley. He takes the coffee, pours it over the flight attendant, lifts it up the striker. I jump out of my seat and yell at the top of my lungs, "Stop, stop." And then he stares at me. I stare at him. And meanwhile, the captain has declared an emergency. Told Los Angeles, we have an emergency. All the planes are out of the way and the plane's immediately descending towards a runway. I'm standing, the guy is standing. I'm motioning towards him. The flight attendant motions, go back a little. I go back. We lock our eyes and the plane lands. And the cops rush on board and take him away. Now, government flies me out to the trial, witness what happened. And turns out he had lost his freedom in two ways. One, he was on a very bad drug trip. He wasn't actually trying to hijack the plane. He did say he had a bomb. He didn't. He was on a drug trip. And sometimes on, I don't know which kind of drug, but they can go drug trips, you lose your freedom and you go crazy. He entirely lost his freedom. And what happened? He also lost his freedom again when they sent him to jail for a good number of years. Meanwhile, while he was attacking the flight attendant, his girlfriend runs up front and yells, "Stop, stop." So the question at the trial was, who is she yelling stop to? To me or to him? To me, to stop leaving her boyfriend alone, or to her boyfriend to stop harassing the flight attendant trying to break into the cockpit. Turns out she was yelling at me. So she lost her freedom, but she wasn't on a bad drug trip. She just lost her freedom, acting stupid. So she went to jail. These are rich people from
Well, Hare Krishna. I think we had a little bit of
which is
connection.
acting out stupid things. Later, he was apologetic. I didn't know what I was doing. Of somebody losing, virtually having no free will left. Now, somebody in the mode of passion has some free will. I can cheat you this way or I can cheat you that way, but I'm going to cheat you some way. One time, Panchagota, wonderful temple president of Vrindavan, some of you know him,
Yes.
American guy,
Yes.
from Florida where I am.
Yeah.
So he's a white guy in India, but shopkeepers didn't know he knew fluent Hindi. So he walks into a shop and the shopkeepers, the two are talking to each other. "Oh, we got this white guy here. Are we going to charge him 5 times or 10 times the normal price?" And they're talking in Hindi. Then they turn to him, "What would you like?" And he answers them in Hindi. So they're very, very embarrassed. So this is an example of they have some freedom in the mode of passion. How can I cheat? How can I do this? So limited freedom. Ignorance is virtually no freedom. Mode of passion, there's some freedom, but freedom to do the wrong thing. Mode of goodness, you have maximum freedom because mode of goodness is accomplished by knowledge. And with knowledge, our mind, our intelligence controls the mind. The example, one of the oldest examples found in Shastra, going back to the earliest Vedas, to the Katha Upanishad, to the Gita, it's the example, and you all know this example. The body is like a chariot. The horses are the five senses, the five horses, the reins of the mind. The intelligence is pulling on the reins, and you're the passenger. So the question is, will your intelligence hold the reins? Or if your intelligence lets go, the mind goes everywhere and the senses go wherever they like. And sometimes very different directions, quite chaotic, quite scary. So mode of goodness means the intelligence controls the reins, controls the mind. In that, you have the most freedom. So the way to have freedom is to be in the mode of goodness. There was a story, a very shocking story. Did I ever tell you the story, Sahadev, about Satchidananda Swami and the butterfly?
I don't think so.
Well, I'll tell that story then. I don't remember if I told it in another class. Satchidananda Swami and I, we like every year carving out some private time together. So he was in Gainesville several years back. And we went, I said, I'll take you to a really interesting place called a butterfly atrium. And you enter through this airlock so none of the butterflies escape. And you walk through like this tropical jungle, and there are 1,000 butterflies there. Tropical butterflies. And they land on you. It's quite magical, quite majestic, and quite peaceful. So we're sitting on a bench, and butterflies are landing on us. And he tells me this story of freedom. Shocking, shocking story. It shocks me to this day. Satchidananda Swami's father was a Nazi concentration camp guard. He regretted it the rest of his life. He had nightmares the rest of his life. He died just a few years ago, very supportive of his son. I'm sure his fate is very good. But he had joined the Nazi youth movement and ended up being some kind of SS officer in the Nazis, guarding Jews, gypsies, gay people, whoever the Nazis would arrest and put in concentration camps. And a bunch of pious Jews were taken to the staging area, told, we're going to take you to the showers. But they knew it was a gas chamber, not the showers. They knew they were going to be killed. And while they were in the staging area, they're drawing pictures of butterflies on the wall with whatever they had, a piece of chalk or something, piece of charcoal. They're drawing pictures of butterflies. And so Satchidananda's father asked one of these rabbis, what are you doing? And he said, I can't tell you. If I tell you, you'll be angry at us. So I'm not going to tell you. His father says, I can torture you. You'll tell me once I'm done torturing. But I don't like torturing people. I don't like these things that we do. So just tell me. He says, okay, I'll tell you. A caterpillar turns into a butterfly. You think you can kill us, but you can't kill us. You may put us in the gas chamber. You may take away our body, but we just get another one. You cannot really kill us. We have complete freedom. This was complete freedom. The Nazi guard didn't have that much freedom. So this was action in the mode of goodness. So even in the worst of circumstances in a concentration camp, one can actually connect with the mode of goodness and have more freedom than the guards who can go home at night and sleep in a comfortable bed. So this is what we're talking about here, is in this verse talking about how much freedom do we have. That freedom we have is proportional to what mode of nature we're in. And the more we are associated intimately with the mode of goodness, the freer we will be. And with that freedom, then we have a choice. Let's say you're married, you have a spouse, you go up to your spouse and you say to your spouse, "Do you love me?" But as you're saying it, you have your spouse's arm behind her back and you're pulling it real tight so it hurts. And you pull it so tight, it's extremely painful. "Do you love me? Do you love me?" Finally, she says, "Yes." That's no freedom involved. There's no love. There's nothing there. That's just torture. So real love, which is the purpose of why we're here. Lord Chaitanya came to teach us how to love the Supreme. Krishna says, "Surrender unto me." But Lord Chaitanya said, "This is how you do it." By then, Kali Yuga had progressed so far, we'd forgotten how to do it. So Lord Chaitanya came. This is how you get the highest love. And to get the highest love, you need the maximum freedom. And to get the maximum freedom, you have to be associated as much as possible in the mode of goodness. Take Jagai and Madai. They were born in a high-class family and became horrible drunkards, woman chasers. They like torturing people. You find that there are people who just like torturing people and hurting people. Jagai and Madai were like that. When you read some of the literature beyond the Chaitanya Charitamrita says they were nasty guys. But how nasty they were is found in other literature. When I read it, it was shocking what they would do. They were like one of these, like the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, who just, if you wore glasses, that made you an intellectual. Therefore, you should be killed. Wearing glasses was a reason to die because you're an intellectual and the intellectual class is against the people. That's better, Sahade. Yeah, it's very dangerous. That was enough to be killed by Pot Pol in Cambodia. It actually was that bad. So this freedom has to be associated, just go back to the point, has to be associated with goodness. And goodness, with goodness comes knowledge. With knowledge comes to do the right thing or the wrong thing. So if we're living in a royal palace or we're living in a concentration camp, we can still be very free. That's a little hard to understand. But when you read the life stories of people who survive concentration camps or survive Pot Pol in Cambodia or survive other death marches, and when you read what their inner story is, you understood they had a tremendous freedom because they had knowledge. And that knowledge begins with understanding our higher nature. So what's going on here is this demon, Hiranyaksha, he thought he had the most freedom because he's very, very powerful. He was obviously powerful, but he didn't realize that he was very much in a mode of passion, and that mode of passion had took away his intelligence and ultimately took away his entire freedom. So I'm going to pause here, see if there are any questions or comments or feedback on these very important points. Before I go there, one of the arguments given by this book that by Spolaski that there is no free will, saying we're all mechanical machines. So everything is determined. What happens to you is determined by your chemicals, by the initial conditions. If we had a big enough supercomputer that could calculate all the initial conditions, we can predict everything that would happen. And then he tries to twist it and say why you should act in a goodness way anyway, even though you have no freedom, because your conditioning is such that if you act in goodness, you'll get some benefit from it. But if you have a choice, that means you do have freedom. So what he says is very, very contradictory. It's philosophically muddled. He's trying to extract the mode of goodness without God, without a higher source of intelligence. There's a ancient Greek discussion of this, and Socrates had a discussion with Euthyphro. Euthyphro was kind of a foolish guy. There's a whole story behind it. Euthyphro's father had accidentally condemned someone to death, and it was a total accident, and should he be punished or not? So they had a dialogue, the Socratic dialogues. And here's the question Socrates asked. In those days, they had Greeks looked at a lot of demigods, is how they looked at the world, though Aristotle looked at it differently. But in the Greek idea, a lot of demigods, like we have Indra, they had, the Norse, in the Norwegian area, Scandinavia, they had Thor, and the Greeks had, who they have instead of Indra. Who was their Indra? I forgot the name now. But one of the Greek gods, just like Indra. So the question is, do the gods think something is good? Is something good because the gods like it? Or do the gods like something because it's good? In other words, is there an intrinsic goodness beyond the gods? So is something good because the gods like it? Or do the gods like something because it's a goodness beyond them? In other words, there's something beyond the gods. The answer is obviously the latter. So that was a big, very famous discussion Socrates had with Euthyphro. Where does goodness come from? And the atheists tried to extract some idea of goodness from some humanitarian. If we're nice to each other, everyone benefits, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, I might be nice, like when I walk in to buy a shop, the shopkeeper will say to me a mantra that's not in the mode of goodness. The most famous mantra of shopkeepers is, "From you, I make no profit." We know that's a lie. But that's what shopkeepers have to do. That's not mode of goodness, but that's what they have to do to survive. So the question is, so those who contend there is no free will are saying we should still act nice to each other because we benefit from it in some way. But that's not necessarily true at all. If I'm a mafia man, I benefit a lot by doing terrible things. So their logic always fails the test reality. The only way to have a really proper moral system is if, as Socrates demonstrated Euthyphro, that there's a goodness beyond whim. And the whims of the demigods do not determine goodness. That was a conclusion. So at this point, I'll pause, see if there are any questions on Varaha, any questions on free will, any questions on agency, or any of these topics I've covered today. Anybody like to say anything? First, I want to greet my many friends here. Gail always shows up, and my friend Gul is here, and Sahadev I see. So I'm happy to see all of you. I know Gail has a question because she always thinks a lot and deeply.
She always does.
I know. She's a good thinker. Yes, Gail.
Yes, on mute. I was going to beat her today, but she beat me to it anyway.
Well, you're going to beat me, Side Dave, because this is I don't have any deep philosophical questions or any thoughtful questions. It's just a couple minor questions, which is one is I wonder if was it Zeus who was the Greek counterpart to
Yeah, I
Angel?
think it was Zeus. Zeus, that's the name I forgot. Yes.
Yeah,
Zeus was the Roman god, and the Greek god, I forget the names, or maybe Zeus was a Greek god and a Roman, I forget these names.
Zeus and
I
Thor.
studied mythology back in high school.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then the other, even more minor question was, you were giving the story of the guy in the airplane and who was tripping, and he was from a rich family, but you froze right at that point where you were going to say where he was from. A rich guy from some place you were going to say, but you froze.
Santa Barbara, very rich
Oh, okay.
community.
Yeah.
And he also was a black belt. If I had went to try to knock him down,
Ooh,
I would have been in trouble. But we got in a
yeah.
staring contest. And when I was staring at him, it hit me. Maybe the guy's just on a drug trip because he said he had a bomb breaking into the cockpit. He would have broken the door. He kicked in the bottom part of the door. It was before 9/11. The doors were not reinforced. But fortunately, sitting in the jump seat behind the door, there was what they call a deadhead pilot, an extra pilot sitting in the jump seat. And he took the emergency access in the cockpit. And he told me at the trial, um, uh, he told me at the trial that if any arms or legs got through the door, he was going to cut them off.
Wow. Yeah,
It was
so actually,
quite an
I wasn't
adventure.
able to follow how you were able. I know he was on a drug trip, and his black belt, skills didn't help him because of that probably. So how were you able to actually stop him?
Well, I caught him in a stare and we locked eyes. And I was standing and he was standing as the plane landed, and we just stood with locked eyes. That's how it happened. And then the flight attendant was saved and the plane landed safely and the cops took him away. And the guy in the seat opposite mine, there was press waiting there. And when he got off the plane, he was telling the press, oh, he was actually hiding under a seat or something. He said, oh, I got in the aisle and I confronted the guy and I saved the flight attendant. And it was very funny because he was saying he did what I did, which I thought was pretty funny. Last thing I want to do is talk to the press or take any credit or anything. It didn't make a difference to me. I just felt I had to do the right thing. But the point is that at the trial, he was trying to say, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And it so struck me when I was at the trial how, because of the drugs, he gave up entirely his free will. He had no free will. He had no idea what he was doing.
Mhm.
And so that was an extreme case that I personally experienced because I was never much of a drunkard. Is an extreme case of somebody just giving up their entire free will due to drugs. And
You know, one,
yeah.
just this moment, one thought that came into my head was that yes, in the mode of ignorance, we don't have any free will. We have maybe a little bit more in passion. But, for a person who is not spiritually minded, um, even if you're in the mode of goodness, it seems that your free will is limited even then because you're not free to act ignorantly, you know? Like a person in the mode of goodness, they would probably not ever take intoxicants or something like that. So, I feel like you're kind of locked into the particular mode that dominates you, and your freedom is restricted in that way also.
Gail, you made a very insightful point. Unless we're in pure goodness, Sudasattva, there's even a contamination in goodness, because in goodness, there's always a hint of ignorance and passion. So we may think, I'm in goodness. I am so good. In fact, I am more good than anyone else. I am the best of goodness. I am so good that when I look in the mirror, all I see is goodness. And I'm so proud of my goodness. That's tainted with other modes. So goodness is generally tainted with other modes. When it reaches pure goodness, we don't see that. And we see in very advanced devotees. I one time went on a 5-hour walk with Radhanath Swami. It was very highly situated in goodness, in my opinion. We were at a retreat, and he had spoken in the morning. And in the afternoon, he said, I spoke already. Let's go play hooky. And there was a park nearby. So we went for a 5-hour walk, just the two of us to talk. And he was telling me how difficult. He said, I was so happy when I was just a pujari at New Vrindavan, breaking the ice on the bucket in the morning, pouring it over myself, and then offering arti. Everything was so simple. But when I became spiritual master, people worship me. They say all these amazing things about me. And every day when I wake up, first thing I do, I look in the mirror after I say my prayers and say, I am just the humble servant. I'm the humble servant. And I have to get it out of my mind that I am anything but Prabhupada's servant, because otherwise I'll become contaminated. So even situated in goodness, a little bit of pride can enter. And he told me how hard it is for me every day to fight that pride, to make sure it doesn't enter his heart. And he's always remembered his humble servant. Because, I mean, I would never want to be in that position where people are offering, their dandavats to me and garlands and praising me. Oh, Brahma, I've never seen such cute baldness as in you, or whatever they might say. I mean, it would, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to ever be in that position. But somehow we ended up in that position. So he had to, every day he was telling me confidentially, but I can share this. But he wanted to just kind of reveal his mindset. This ain't easy, Brahma, but it's my service. I have to do it. So that's what goodness is about.
Do you remember how long ago you two took that walk?
Was probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that.
Oh.
It wasn't terribly long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we try every year to also to get some one-on-one time if we can. Doesn't always happen, but we try. Sometimes we'll be someplace and he'll have me drive him, so we get some time together to talk. Because it's very important. I mean, he's you might say my friend, but also my senior, my mentor. So, he likes sharing me Sankirtan stories. And because he knows how much I like them. And one time he comes up to me, Brahma, I've been to the bank of the Ganges. I've been to the bank of the Yamuna. Yesterday I spoke at the Bank of England. So
I have to ask just one last thing. I was just wondering how Satchidananda Maharaj processed the fact that his father had that job that he did. How did he process that?
The question is, how did his father process it? And his father processed it with horrible regret the rest of his life. I mean, he just went along with the system. But he at the end of his life, he greatly regretted it. There was one, as though he had huge regrets the whole rest of his life. So, that's how the father processed it. There was one Nazi, Adolf Eichmann. Who here has heard of Adolf Eichmann? Anybody? He was the one who designed the final solution of gas chambers for Jews and gay people and dissenters and gypsies, whatever categories Hitler felt were inferior. He's the one that thought of the gas chamber solution. And he was captured, the only Nazi captured by the Israelis. So in 1961, he was tried in Israel. And he was living incognito in Argentina. And the Israeli secret police tracked him down. And he was walking down the street and they drugged him, put him in a diplomatic pouch, rushed to the airport and got him out of the country. Argentina was mad. You kidnapped one of our citizens, but the Israelis didn't care. And he went on trial for what he did. And I was like 12 years old or something, and I was watching it on television, I remember. And he was in a glass booth at a courtroom in Israel. And his defense was, I am only following orders. I just did what I was told. That was his defense. That defense didn't win. He was convicted. He was executed, and his ashes were scattered in the Mediterranean, so there wouldn't be a shrine by ex-Nazis to his remains. Now, the story gets a lot more interesting than that. There's a much more interesting piece to the story. Would you like to hear it? It involves Krishna.
Of course. How can we
There's
not?
a much more interesting piece to the story. So Adolf Eichmann fled. A lot of Nazis fled to South America. And actually, they were helped by the church, believe it or not. So they fled to South America. He lived incognito. He had a son with him. His son married a Latino girl, and they had a daughter. And the daughter was born early 50s and grew up sitting on her beloved grandfather's lap. And her grandfather was captured, executed. The son divorced the girl's mother, went back to Germany, and became a multimillionaire, as a lot of ex-Nazis somehow did. And then the girl grew up and became a Hare Krishna.
Wow.
Not only did she become a Hare Krishna, she took her initiation vows from Marie Dynamraj, who's from a Jewish family.
Wow.
And so I had dinner with her one time, and I asked, so I said, your grandfather, wasn't he a really bad person? I said,
not to her.
Well, I asked her directly. She said, well, to me, he was my beloved grandfather, but he got what he deserved because he was not anti-Semitic. He was not anti-Gypsy. He was just following orders. But you just don't follow bad orders. It's a crime against humanity. And but he just was the quintessent bureaucrat who did what he was told. And therefore, he had to pay the penalty for not having a moral backbone. That was what she told me. And I looked up history books, confirm what her version was.
But, I mean, he said that he was just following orders, but I mean, is it following orders to design a gas chamber?
Yeah, that's what Hitler asked him to do, find a way to get rid of them all. Well, the efficient way is gas them. I mean, they had enough, you had to find a way to kill people. If you use a firing squad, you'd waste ammunition you needed for the war. And they had plenty of nerve gas, it turns out. Maybe left over from World War I, I'm not sure what. But he was guilty and he died. So that's the rest of that little story there. Quite a nice story. Yeah. When Henry Ford's great-grandson, Ambarish, and Walter Reuther's daughter got together and bought the Fisher Mansion in Detroit. That made the cover of Time magazine because Walter Reuther headed the union, and Henry Ford was totally anti-union. So Henry Ford used to pay thugs to beat up Walter Reuther. And then, the great-grandson of Henry Ford and the daughter of Walter Reuther end up working together as Hare Krishnas.
Oh my God. Amazing.
That's quite
Amazing.
a scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. I was just with, by the way, for those of you who know, Ambrish was quite ill. He's building the TOVP, just pledged another 10 million. And I haven't seen him in a few years, but I just spent an afternoon with him 3 days ago. Went to his house, and we were all friends, and he was filling up and up. He's recovering nicely. Has to go through a lot of physical
Very
therapy.
good to hear that.
He had a seizure, but he's recovering very well. In very good spirits. We spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours laughing mostly. And he's good, and he's very dedicated to his projects. I mean, I adore him.
Yeah.
Such a nice person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prabhuji,
I
I
think
have
my
a
time is
question.
up. Any last question?
Yeah, I have a question on free will.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji, of course, as always. We've heard from several devotees, several speakers, that Srimad Bhagavatam is like a sleeping pill. It puts people to sleep. But a couple of devotees have shared with me that when BRAHMA-TIRTHA Prabhu speaks, nobody sleeps. So
there's that famous lullaby, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I try to avoid that turning into a lullaby. I was once at a class in Dallas. I won't say who was speaking, but one devotee was giving class, and he's speaking, and the sannyasis that are sitting in the audience, slowly their dundas are falling over. And then he's speaking, and he goes, and Krishna, like this, and he pauses. I said, must be something profound coming. And the speaker fell asleep himself. So my goal of giving class is to keep people awake and not tell you what to think, give you something to think about. And that's what Prabhupada did with me. He always said, you got some questions, let's go deeper, let's think deeper. That's how Prabhupada dealt with things.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
let's try to go deeper.
Yes. Well, trying to go deeper, I cannot go really deep, but I have a question on free will.
Yes.
I am thinking that this concept of free will is quite complex, complicated.
You're correct.
It is complex and complicated because I believe that everybody wants to be happy. Every human being, especially normal, sound, full-fledged human being, wants to be happy. And therefore, such a person would like to do things that will bring him such happiness. But doing things to bring us happiness are also based on what we have inculcated from others, what others have told us. Therefore, there is what others have told us, that if you say this, if you do this, or you do it this way, that is what is going to give you happiness. And therefore, there is this popular saying that think outside the box. Now, as I'm growing up, I was told that if you are boarding a truck with an elderly person and you have a seat, you have to get up and offer your seat to the elderly person. To me, it's beautiful. Now, there is another instance where it says that when your elder person speaks, you just have to listen to him, which is nice, but sometimes it could be very improper to do that, especially if whatever the elder person is telling you is not correct, it's not right. So my question is, if our free will, oftentimes, if not all the time, is based on what we've been taught by culture, by society, by tradition, and one is unable to get outside the box, which will be, to my understanding, will be like in the mode of goodness. How does such a person actually, truly have a free will when whatever he's doing is all as a result of how that person has been groomed, how that person has been prepared to live his life? How does such choices be considered free will?
So you're asking give an example. Give me an example of what you're trying to say.
An example I want to give is that when I see an elderly person crossing the street, if he's struggling, the way I've been taught, I will have to help this person to cross the street. Because this is how I've been taught, this is how I've been living my life. When I see an elderly person crossing the street and there is an oncoming vehicle, and I could have helped him, but I did not help him, my thought punishes me that, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that to help the elderly person? Now, if I did that, that is as a result, if I helped the elderly person crossing the street, I'm doing that, but it is based on what I've been taught. That if you find an elderly person crossing the street, there is an oncoming vehicle, and he needs help, go in to help. And so if I go in to help, I feel satisfied. If I don't offer the help, I feel guilty. In either case, I had the free will either to do it or not to do it. But to do it, not to do it, is all based on what I have been taught. So my question is, if my actions are based on what I've been taught, how do I say that that free will is actually a free will in truth?
I see what you're saying. Well, first, you've been taught well to help an old lady across the street, unless you help the old lady across the street and she really didn't want to cross the street. Then that's not very good. You know, say, oh, there's an old lady standing by the street, and I say, oh, I'm going to help you across the street. You take her across. And when you get to the other side, says, you know, I didn't really want to cross the street. Why did you do that? So, but generally,
Well, probably, of course, I know you're trying to answer this question, but I want to.
That means you're brought up to be more in the mode of goodness. So in the mode of goodness, you do the right thing because it's the right thing. That's your freedom. Now, somebody else who has been brought up very well to respect elders, they can still have the choice of not respecting elders. You still have that choice of not doing it. You know the right thing because you had good parents or good mentors who taught you. But you still, I know many people have been brought up well and behave horribly.
Probably, I would like to link this question to another question, in the sense that Lord Shiva told his consort, Mother Parvati, that the highest form of worship is Lord Vishnu. But even higher than that is the worship of the servants or the worshippers of Lord Vishnu. we all are encouraged to have spiritual masters. Now, if my possibility of attaining Krishna is dependent on another person, and that person decides not to like me or chooses not to like me, and because he does not like me, Krishna is not going to receive me, or Krishna is not going to accept me. Now I choose a particular person who is a servant of Krishna, and this person loves me. The mere fact that he loves me and wants to introduce me to Krishna, I'm thinking that Krishna will accept me. Now, if my possibility of communing with Krishna is dependent on another person's appreciation of what I'm doing, contentment of what I'm doing or not, then what is my free will to choose to do what I believe that I want to do to serve Krishna and attain Krishna? Because I have to be guided. And being guided by this worshiper of Krishna, as Lord Shiva says, is going to be the main determinant factor whether I'm going to be received, accepted by Krishna or not. So the gist of my meandering question is that I strongly believe that we have the free will to do whatever we want to do, to choose whatever we want to choose. But in the absolute sense, we don't have, because Krishna wants us to come to him through somebody. And if I choose not to go to Krishna through somebody, then I don't get Krishna. So where is my free will to choose whether to go through somebody or not to go through somebody, if I really want Krishna to receive me? I don't know if you get my point.
Yeah, there's many examples given in our literature of, for example, Bali Maharaj was told by his guru, don't give Vamandev the 3 steps. Sukacharya said, don't do it, but he did it. So he had the freedom and did it. That's a very dramatic example. So that's an example of free will, where he defied his elder and did the right thing. So sometimes that happens. That's the rare case, but it happens. And the way Prabhupada would answer your question is use your intelligence. That's how I would answer. So sometimes for example, we may have a Diksha guru who we just don't get along with very well. So then we don't ever speak ill of our Diksha guru. We don't violate etiquette, but we'll take our intimate instruction from a Shiksha guru. I'll give an example. Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He's in our parampara, but the parampara of his guru is his Shiksha guru, not his Diksha guru. That's what appears in our parampara. So your guru is the one you give your heart to, your shraddha, your faith. And so it may be your Shiksha guru, it may be your Diksha guru, it may be someone else. With the story from the 11th canto in the Bhagavatam of the Avaduta Brahmin, and wherever he went, even the prostitute gave him instruction. He learned, not that he was with the prostitute, but he learned by watching her. He learned by nature, he learned by whoever he saw. So that's what freedom is. The freedom is to use your intelligence. And if we don't have the intelligence, then we should have at least enough intelligence to get intelligence. How do you get intelligence? By getting more in the mode of goodness. So, for example, if I find that my faith is weak, what do? Do things that are more in the mode of goodness. Get up a half hour earlier than I wanted to. Chant a little better round than I wanted to. You know, I'm very particular at which classes I listen to. I'll be frank. If I'm going to a class and somebody says you should do this, you should do that, gives me piles of should until the should already reaches up to here, I get very bored very quickly. It's me.
Wow.
Somebody else may like that a lot and get some benefit of it.
Yeah.
It makes me run away.
Well, oftentimes do's and don'ts scare people anyway.
Prabhupada said we're not the movement of do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
You know, we have a few don'ts. I mean, but a human being doesn't have to be told not to eat a hamburger. There's very few don'ts, very, very few, you know, just few. And, you know, don't commit great offenses. That you know, I learned from my mother and father. Prabhupada says it too, but I didn't need that. I already learned it from my parents.
Yeah.
And that gives me more freedom because that puts me more in the mode of goodness. So it doesn't take away my freedom. It gives it to me. But we are over time now, and I have another function I have to be at. Thank you very much. It's one of my favorite groups to be with. And I wish you all a blessed, happy day in these crazy, crazy times as the demons we had, in this case, we had Yaksha trying to take over the earth.
Yeah.
Now we can open up the newspaper or CNN and we can see various demons trying to take over the earth. They're not nice demons.
Yeah.
So what can we do? We can, first thing is raise our own consciousness. So with that, I will take leave. I'm late for another program, it turns out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
all a
Prabhuji.
blessed day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So, dear devotees, as we always do, please give me all unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest gratitude and appreciation to our beloved uncle, His Grace Brahma-TIRTHA Prabhu, for sharing his love and wisdom with us all, as he always does. Please give me all unmute. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Prabhu ki this come from the church of Prabhu Bahari ki. Our glory is to assemble devotees.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.